Hello and welcome to the Permobil Academy webinar series. And now I'm going to introduce our primary presenter, Mauricio Arredondo. He will be presenting this webinar along with my colleague, Catherine Sweeney from Permobil, and a real live end user of Smart Drive, Shonda Hagan. Mauricio, the webinar is all yours.
Thank you so much, Lenny. My name is Mauricio Arredondo. I am the Portfolio Marketing Manager for Smart Drive here at Permobil, and I'm excited to share the updates we have for Apple Watch and the PushTracker E3. Today, what we're going to be seeing is a quick overview on Smart Drive and what that is. Then we're going to dive into a little bit deeper on the clinical benefits of Power Assist. We're going to talk about the updates with the Apple Watch and the PushTracker E3. And then I'll hand it over to Shonda, who's going to give us her experience with Smart Drive so far in the Apple Watch. Following that, we'll open up the floor for questions, and if we have some time, we'll dive into some resources that you can also find in the handout section here at GoToWebinar. Before we get started, though, I want to talk about Permobil's vision. And as Dr. Per Uden, Permobil's founder, stated, our vision is that every person with a disability has the right to have his or her needs compensated as far as possible by aids with the same technical standard as those we use in our everyday lives. And I think today more than ever, we can see this vision coming true. We see that we bring technical standard equipment that we use in our everyday lives into the lives of people with disabilities. We see with the Apple Watch being integrated into the Smart Drive family. So let's talk a little bit about Smart Drive and how it empowers users to power their push their way. Smart Drive, for those of you who don't know, is a rear-mounted power assist device. It can mount to any manual wheelchair, including ultra-lightweight rigid chairs, ultra-lightweight folding chairs, lightweight wheelchairs, tilt-in-space chairs, and even one-arm drive chairs. If there's a chair that's not in this list that you want us to integrate Smart Drive to, feel free to ask. Our engineers are here to help you. We're willing to give it a shot. And for the most part, we can say we're very successful in adapting Smart Drive to a lot of wheelchairs in the market. The unit only weighs 12.5 pounds, and it's easily removable and portable. This means that manual wheelchair users can take the Smart Drive anywhere they go, and they can easily take it on and off if they don't want it on their wheelchair. This weight is also not transferred into the overall wheelchair weight when a user is propelling. The 12.5 pounds are actually transferred to the floor, and users, even with the Smart Drive off, can still wheelie and maneuver independently and not feel this extra weight on the frame when they're propelling. Smart Drive can go up to 5.5 miles per hour, and it's got programmable speed and acceleration settings, and even control modes and power settings on the motor that can be adjusted easily. It has a range of up to 12.3 miles. This is according to ANSI RESNA testing, but even in real life, we see the ranges going from 5 and 7 miles all the way to 12 miles, depending on how the Smart Drive is being used in the environment, and usage patterns to how often it's being turned on and turned off throughout the day. And then user weight ranges from 30 to 331 pounds, including the weight of the chair that is on top of the Smart Drive. So it's really applicable to a lot of wheelchair users out there. Let's talk a little bit about how Smart Drive is controlled and all the offerings we have. With these updates, we now have the Apple Watch as a control option for the Smart Drive. We also have the TicWatch E3, which when paired with the Smart Drive is known as the PushTracker E3. And we currently still offer the original PushTracker wearable. These three wearable options can easily control your Smart Drive through gesture controls. The way you do it is you double tap your wrist on a handrail, and the Smart Drive will turn on and start speeding up. When you reach the speed you want to cruise at, you simply single tap, and it maintains that speed. All you have to do is just worry about steering the wheelchair. And when you're ready to stop, you again double tap on the handrim and hold the wheels. We also have switch control as a control option for Smart Drive. This is actually a free control option that's offered when you order a Smart Drive, and it can be programmed to either momentary or latch mode. When switch control is set as momentary, as long as you push the switches, either one of the switches, the Smart Drive will accelerate and maintain the constant max speed. When you let go, all you have to do is just hold on to the wheels and the chair will stop. If you're using switch control as latch mode, what you do is you press and hold either switch, and the Smart Drive will turn on and start ramping up speed. When you get to the speed you want to cruise at, you let go, and all you have to worry about is steering the wheelchair, and the Smart Drive will continuously push you at that same speed. When you're ready to stop, you simply tap either one of the switches and hold onto the wheels. And then also, it's important to know that the switch control can also be ordered with a mono jack port for any external switch to be used as either momentary or latch switch with Smart Drive. That's in case somebody wants to use switches, but maybe needs increased tactile feedback than what they have with the Smart Drive switch control. Any external switch can also be adapted to use with Smart Drive. If any of these control methods don't work, we still offer the MX1 and the MX2 drive modes. Within the MX1, all you have to do is propel to start. So you push the wheelchair and Smart Drive will engage. And when you're ready to stop, you hold the wheels and Smart Drive will disengage. In MX2 control mode, again, you push to start and Smart Drive will engage. And when you're ready to stop, you single tap one of the wearables and hold the wheels, and Smart Drive will disengage and you stop using Smart Drive. So all of these control options can be combined with each other, and they're very simple to use, and some of them have been improved throughout the years. So why choose Smart Drive as a power assist device? Smart Drive is the lightest rear-mounted power assist device in the market. It only weighs 12.5 pounds, and again, it doesn't transfer any of that weight to the wheelchair user, and it easily attaches to any wheelchair. With our patented Omni wheel, you can start from any position, and you can also freely maneuver the wheelchair while you have Smart Drive on. And finally, our multiple control options allow users to discover how to power their push their way. And these are all customizable to fit individual needs. With this said, I'll hand it over to Catherine Sweeney, our clinical educator, to talk about the clinical benefits of Power Assist.
Great, thanks Mauricio. Hi everybody, my name is Catherine Sweeney. I am a physical therapist. I'm also an assistive technology professional and a seating and mobility specialist. And my role here at Permobil is clinical education. So I'm happy to just go through a brief overview of the clinical benefits of Smart Drive. You can go to the next slide. So as a refresher, sorry, hang on a second, let's start with the problem. So the evidence is clear that people who push manual wheelchairs as their main means of mobility report pain and functional limitations at very high rates. This is because people who propel the wheelchair using their arms push their wheels an average of 1,800 times a day. So by comparison, we know that ISO, or the International Organization of Standardization, determined that any repetitive motion greater than 1,500 is considered to be harmful to the human body. This can lead to significant shoulder, elbow, and wrist injuries, which in turn lead to declines in independence and quality of life. So it's also important to point out that people who propel their wheelchair with other patterns, say one arm, one leg, which is what we call hemipropulsion, those people are also at an inherent disadvantage as compared to those that use both arms. So basically, manual wheelchair propulsion is not easy and increases a person's risk for problems. You want to go to the next slide? And it's also important to remember that pushing a wheelchair is only one factor that contributes to upper extremity complications. Repetitive tasks related to daily life in a wheelchair, such as reaching above shoulder height from a sitting position or from multiple transfers, which is very typical, also takes a toll on the body. So while we may not be able to eliminate those activities, we can impact wheelchair propulsion and independence by how we set up the chair. Go ahead, you can go to the next slide. So the solution is to adopt a more proactive approach. Research on the effects of power assist is still in its early stages, but the results are so far promising. Several studies have shown that power assist systems can decrease exertion levels measured via the person's heart rate and perceived exertion reports, as well as other studies confirming that when power assist systems are in use, the distance traveled increases when compared to without. So that just shows a functional choice to go further. And at Permobil, we found that when clinicians used the Smart Evaluation app during Smart Drive trials or evaluations, the data consistently demonstrates that their clients pushed 80% less with the Smart Drive than without. So to summarize, the Smart Drive Power Assist system directly addresses the problems already identified in research that has been widely recognized and reported regarding repetitive pattern injuries. So we need to kind of incorporate that best practice data into the choices on how we set up the wheelchair. Next slide. And while this is not an exhaustive list on this slide, the key here is that there is a wide variety of people struggling with manual wheelchair propulsion for different reasons, whether it's weakness related to a neurologic injury or condition, poor coordination, pain, maybe arthritis and some of those other multi-joint problems, or just limited endurance related to cardiopulmonary or multi-system failure. These folks are often not consistently able to manage pushing their chair all day, every day, independently. And yet they may also not be appropriate for a power wheelchair. Often switching to a power wheelchair would require expensive home modifications and actually create less participation and actually block access because they don't have a vehicle. Oftentimes, most people cannot afford to buy a modified vehicle and don't have access to a vehicle to transport that power device, or may live in a rural area where public transportation that has accessible devices is not available. So oftentimes this limits their participation and actually decreases their functional independence. And when you switch to a power device, every transfer height and self-care routine would need to change dramatically. And the criteria that insurance uses to qualify for power assist is not limited to a specific diagnosis. So we as clinicians on the call today really need to create that data and tell the story that it's based on that person's independence and functional routines in their own home environment is dictating what recommendation you're making. So powered wheelchairs are great, but it's not for everybody, and not everybody wants to switch to a power wheelchair just because manual wheelchair is more difficult. So the Smart Drive is a really nice bridge assist to think about regardless of diagnosis, just it's based on function. Next slide. This is a nice, very simple, not really meant to drop into a chart, but a really nice list to keep by your desk if you are a clinician, or if you're on the line and you're wondering, is this appropriate for me? These questions are really good cues for someone who may benefit from power assist. So, are you a long-term manual wheelchair user? Do you already have a history of upper extremity problems or degeneration symptoms? Do you have fatigue that limits your participation? How is your heart rate and your oxygen saturation when you propel? And then compare it with a Smart Drive. What happens? Is there a functional medical improvement? So going down this list of questions, which we'll have available in our handout after the webinar, it's just a really nice cue to your brain of maybe we should try this device. Maybe this is something that can prevent me from going to a power wheelchair. Next slide. And I also want to emphasize that this is not just an adult problem. So the pediatric population also, for different reasons, different, whether it be neurologic or orthopedic, they're also impacted, but they're impacted differently. So in the pediatric population, it's very, very important that they, for their own development and milestone development, are participating with their peers, are developing social interaction skills, and are able to keep up with their peers in their own settings, whether it be school or in their social opportunities. So we just can't understate what it is for the pediatric population to be able to independently propel and consistently be functional. Here are two videos that I want to end with. So first, the young lady that you see on the left actually has coordination problems in 3 limbs. So she's got one functional arm, her right arm, and she's in a manual wheelchair that has what we call a one-arm drive system. So both on the right-hand side, there's 2 rims that help her steer right or left. But it's a heavy system. So despite everybody doing their best efforts for her to be successful, it was just too heavy and she wasn't functional. She was dependently pushed by her peers and by her family. So let's watch what happens when we added a smart drive to her chair. Let's roll that video. So what you might be able to see is that she went from being able to, ask to be pushed to pushing herself. She was easily able to steer. She was able to lock in a slow speed for herself, and she was able to navigate. So you could picture her doing that through the school hallways. This next video is a young boy. Go ahead and switch to that next video. And you'll be able to see that he is on a trail. And on a trail, determining where he's going, he's with his family, and he is able to functionally propel. So imagine him with his friends, imagine him on a field trip, and imagine him his own self-perception and empowerment that happens when he's propelling.
One of those things is what we
Okay, so you can really see how, as a child, this can benefit, as I said, their own self-perception and empowerment. The last piece I'd say is studies do show that fatigue really impacts learning in the school environment. So we have to take into consideration what that type of propulsion does as the day progresses to their opportunities for learning. So with that, Mauricio, I'm going to turn it back over to you to talk about our exciting updates.
Thanks, Catherine. Thanks for the insight too. So very excited, everybody. It's Apple Watch time. We're super happy that we're at this point where we can share the new Smart Drive MX2 Plus app for Apple Watch and the benefits it brings to our users. The app is available now for free on the Apple App Store after tons of feedback that we got from end users requesting this to go live. It's compatible with Apple Watches Series 5 or newer, running Watch OS 8 or newer. And so far, the feedback that we've gotten from our Smart Drive users is that they've experienced better screen visibility, increased battery performance on the wearable, and higher comfort levels when compared to the PushTracker E2. Overall, it's a premium experience is what we've been hearing. So very happy with the turnout so far. I do want to, however, reiterate that it's only compatible with Apple Watches Series 5 or newer. Currently, in the Apple Store, there's 3 watches available for purchase. There's the Apple Watch Series 7, the Apple Watch SE, and the Apple Watch Series 3. We are not compatible with the Apple Watch Series 3, so keep that in mind, especially for you clinicians and providers talking to end users about this option and make sure that if they're going to go buy a watch, it's not the cheapest watch available because we won't be compatible with it. So I just wanted to point that out. And then let me show you real quick how the app is laid out and how easy it is to interface with SmartDrive. So when you initially download the app from the Apple App Store, you will get a prompt on your Apple Watch to give it Bluetooth permission. This gives the app access to the Bluetooth feature on the watch to be able to communicate with the SmartDrive. If you don't give it access, it will not be able to find the SmartDrive, and that might be that has been the number one user error we find, is that they either miss that or they have Bluetooth turned off on their watch and they can't pair the SmartDrive, but it's a quick fix on the settings, either on the iPhone or on the watch. Once you give it access, the app will open up and you run through SmartDrive tap training, where you can learn how to do a double tap and a single tap and even practice there. When you're finished with that, all you have to do is turn on your SmartDrive, tap the purple ring that says Scan for SmartDrive, and within about 10 seconds, your Apple Watch will be paired to the SmartDrive unit and ready to go. It actually does turn on Power Assist when you initially pair, so you're ready to do a double tap and go. Let me see if I can show you a video of this in action so you can see how easy it is to actually initially set up the app. Here, the app has been downloaded and that prompt has been approved. And the first thing you'll see is tap training and how fast and easy it is to go through tap training into pairing. So it'll show you how to tap, how to start and stop using double tapping with a fun little graphic there, how to set your speed with a single tap once you're at the coasting speed you want. And when you're finished, again, all you have to do is tap Scan for SmartDrive with your unit turned on and nearby. And when you see the blue ring pop up, that means that SmartDrive has been paired. Now let's dive into how to change settings on the app itself. It's also very easy. So when you want to change settings from the home screen, you just scroll down into settings, make any adjustments you want, go to the top, hit back, and then you'll get a prompt to make sure that you want to actually save the settings. And then you get a second prompt if you want to turn Power Assist on. This will actually push the settings to the SmartDrive so that it also has the updated settings. Now I want to show you how to add the SmartDrive complication, they call it. It's like a shortcut to the Apple Watch watch face, so that you have easy access to it from the home screen on your watch. What you do is you tap and hold the watch face, hit edit, and then scroll to where you see complications. When you select where you want it placed, you just find the app and you're ready to go. You just hit the crown, and then from the home screen, when you tap that icon, it'll take you straight to the app. This works on some of the watch faces depending on how the Apple Watch is programmed, not all of them. Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint here. I think it's important to show how it looks when Power Assist is turned off versus how it looks when it's turned on. When Power Assist is off, you see a blue ring on the main button with a lightning bolt in the middle. And then when you tap that, the full ring turns blue and you see an estimated range with the lightning bolt in white. That means that Power Assist is actually on. So let me show you a video. Something that we're very excited about is our current social media campaign, where because of our excitement with this new launch, Permobil decided to give away 15 Apple Watches to smart drive users across the US. And we've partnered with some micro influencers to help us spread the word about this giveaway. We've actually already given out 10 Apple Watches to smart drive users. And here I'm going to show you a video of one of our influencers talking about her experience with Apple Watch and how it compares to her PushTracker E2, and talking about the giveaway a little bit as well. So I'm going to play this. This one does have some audio.
I have to admit, I am in love. The combo of the Apple Watch and the Smart Drive go better together than peanut butter and jelly. Here is how the PushTracker compares to the new Apple Watch app for Smart Drive. Now you get the chance to experience this epic combo for yourself. Permobil is hosting an Apple Watch giveaway for Smart Drive users. Go check out Permobil USA on Instagram for details on how to enter.
So for all of you who are smart drive users, please check us out at Permobil USA in our social media channels. And if you haven't already done so, submit your entries to be considered for the next round of Apple Watches. Actually, April will be our last round, and we're giving away 5 Apple Watches to smart drive users. So follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and check it out. So let's kind of switch gears a little bit, talk about the PushTracker E3 and the improvements that we've done to the PushTracker wearables with smart drive. The PushTracker E3 compared to the PushTracker E2 is based on Mopboy's TicWatch E3 wearable, and it has improved battery performance and processing speeds because it's got a new processor, it's got increased internal storage and increased RAM. So these three together bring some great improvements to the usability and the feel of using a PushTracker with smart drive. Not only that, but the PushTracker E3 is also smaller, thinner, and lighter than PushTracker E2, making it much more comfortable to wear. The PushTracker E3 has integrated speakers, so you'll hear audible feedback when you're tapping, and it also has an extra button that can be programmed to be a shortcut to the app itself. So essentially, the app will stay the same, but it will feel very different because of the new processor and the increased memory of the watch. It's not as laggy as it used to be. It's actually very smooth when you're using the app, and you do have improved battery range, battery performance with the wearable. That extra button, again, it can be used for a quick app access from the home screen, but it can also be used to turn off power assist. So if a user prefers to turn off the smart drive with the button instead of double tapping and holding onto the wheels, all you have to do is hit and hold onto the wheels. And then for users who decide to do the full system reset from our simplified wearable operating system, they would get the NFC technology on their wearable, and they would be able to take phone calls. But again, they would have to do a full system reset and pair it to their Google phone, Google account, download the app, and whatnot. So it's not for everybody. I think it's good to remind our providers here that the simplified setup of the PushTracker E3, it comes preloaded with the apps, and there's no Wi-Fi required or internet required to set this up. So setup can be done in under 5 minutes. Apps come preloaded. All you do is just turn on the watch and scan for the smart drive. You'll be able to pick, open up the app, and you're ready to go very quickly, which I will show you in this video right now.
To pair and connect for the first time, you can do this by tapping the Turn Power Assist On button on the main screen. you will first receive a permissions notice. This explains to you that we will request permission to locate the device and be provided with phone permissions. From these permissions, we will not be accessing location data or cellular data. The PushTracker will then search for available smart drives. During this scanning, you will be asked for the permissions. This should be done with only one smart drive within range. If there are more than one smart drives within range, the PushTracker will warn you and not allow you to pair. You will see the identification number appear on the screen. Tap the number to pair. Then tap the green Turn Power Assist on to connect. You will know you have a successful connection with the smart drive when you see a blue circle blinking around the edge of the screen.
So moving on, I want to show a couple videos from our Apple Watch social media contest that we have going on right now. So the way it works is smart drive users around the US have been filming the way they use smart drive and what impacts they've had from smart drive since they started using it. And we've honestly gotten so much testimonials. It's overwhelming how much of an impact it has on people's lives, and we're just so touched by everything we've seen. And I want to show a couple of these here today. So this one actually won a watch here in March. So this entry, it's great video showing how smart drive can benefit people in supermarkets, in open spaces, going up curbs. Just very functional as far as the impact it's had. Let's move on to the next testimonial.
I use my smart drive in a lot of different situations of going up hills, up ramps independently, or long day events like football games or festivals where I'm constantly needing to push my arms. It gives my arms and shoulders a big break. This video is my first time practicing to make sure I was able to use it safely and independently. It's been a huge help.
Quick note there on that this video was the first time practicing using smart drive, and it looks like she got the hang of it very quickly. So again, if you find the right control option, and get with your reps, if you want to do some demos, they can bring a couple of different options for you to try. But it can be very intuitive, very easy to use, easy to teach, and fast setup. Now I want to show this video of a dad talking about how smart drive has impacted him and how to be a better dad because of his independence.
We use our smart drive to do our grocery shopping. I don't know what we would do without it.
Hi, I'm Brandon. I've had my smart drive for 5 years. First time we got it, we went down to Disney, and it got me all over the parks all week. I've absolutely loved the smart drive. It's the best thing we ever bought. And it allows me to get around and be a father and take my son places that normally would get to go.
So as you can imagine, smart drive not only brings functional benefits, it also brings psychosocial benefits to our users. And finally, I got one last video to show you before we hand it over to Shauna to give us her testimonial. Let me pull it up real quick. This one I think is very cool to see how it can also have vocational benefits, right? This videographer is using smart drive to be able to take a cool video shot of one of his subjects and do it in a smooth manner without having to worry about his mobility and just focus on the actual shot itself. So with that, I want to welcome Shonda Hagan. Shonda is a California-based wheelchair user. She's an educator, disability advocate, and a service dog handler and trainer. After a car accident in 2014, she has been using Permobil products to their full advantage. Shonda and her service dog Kestrel worked tirelessly to show that life in a wheelchair can be awesome. So, Shonda, welcome. Thanks for being here today, and we're excited to hear about your experience with Smart Drive throughout the years and the benefits that Apple Watch has brought to your Smart Drive experience.
I just wanted to thank everyone at Permobil for having me here today. This is super cool. As a side note, I have some chronic brain damage from about 35 years of migraine, so I am literally going to just read this off my phone. I hope that's okay with everyone. So here is my little story. I was a part-time wheelchair user starting back in about 2010 or 11 for about 3 years due to multiple chronic conditions that slowly affected me over time since childhood. I purchased my first Highlight ZRA off eBay. It was not a great fit at all. It was way too wide. I became a full-time wheelchair user in 2014, almost 8 years ago now, due to a car accident that severely worsened my conditions and did not allow me to walk at all anymore. My lawsuit at the time covered my first custom Highlight ZRA, but it also wasn't a great fit. I didn't fully understand what I needed, so the ATP just assumed, and it didn't turn out that great. After about 4 years of full-time wheelchair use, my right shoulder really started struggling. I was diagnosed with acromioclavicular arthritis and shoulder impingement syndrome from the repetitive motion of using wheelchairs that didn't fit me correctly, plus having the genetic conditions that left me with very weak joints. It really affected how I was able to function as a wheelchair user and a human. Transferring was harder. Getting across my carpet in my bedroom to get to my bathroom was very difficult. Without an adapted bathroom, the leap to the toilet was especially hard with one arm. Same with the leap to my shower chair. Ouch. There were days when I just skipped food because of all the twists and turns of getting to my kitchen was just too much for my shoulder. No one should have to skip eating. I was in pain. I was suffering a lot. I couldn't even reach across for a glass of water next to my bed. That was how intense the pain was in my shoulder. During the next year of mostly being bedbound, I researched wheelchairs in every way I possibly could. I watched every single YouTube video about chairs. I read articles. I looked at pictures. I tried sitting in different positions to learn what my body liked best. I tried different backrest heights and so on. I educated myself as much as I could. I couldn't have other people making decisions for me. I needed to know exactly what I wanted and needed. During my extensive internet research, I learned that there were these things called power assists for wheelchairs. Amazing. I knew that with my shoulder being that injured that a power assist would be very necessary or I would be very limited in my life. I was not a good candidate for a power wheelchair for several reasons that have already been talked about. I am also a fiercely independent human. So the few times that my husband tried pushing me in a wheelchair, I did not like it. I felt like a shopping cart, completely out of control of my own destiny, really never wanted to be pushed again. But with my damaged shoulder, it was either be pushed and tied to another human forever with no independence or get a power assist. I researched every power assist that existed, and the Smart Drive was the one that made the most sense. I watched so many videos on Smart Drives that I already knew how to use it before I even got it. One reason that the Smart Drive looked perfect was due to being a service dog user for almost 20 years now. I needed something that would work well, with a dog being attached to my wrist at all times. In addition, the lightweight, the easy removal of the smart drive, it was great. I could load my chair in and out of the car so easily, which is extremely important to me. I highly recommend searching out any information and watching all the YouTube videos on smart drives to see if one would be helpful. What I learned from my first several years of purchasing wheelchairs is that you have to know what you want and need. Leaving it up to other people that don't live in your body is always going to be a bad idea. When I finally got on Medicare and got my third wheelchair, I had the TiFit rep come out to measure me and help my ATP so that I would finally get an active chair that was built properly for me and my needs. I got my new well-fitting Tilight ZRA and my smart drive covered by Medicare, and it has been a game changer for me. Having some of the chronic conditions that I've had since birth, that makes my joints easily damaged, and having that diagnosis already in my files, in addition to the repetitive motion diagnosis on my shoulder, made it a pretty easy decision for insurance to cover my smart drive. At the time that I had gotten approved, it was pretty severely limited by my shoulder. Because of my smart drive, I now have good shoulder days, which is amazing. I no longer have problems pushing on smooth, flat surfaces. I don't usually need to use my smart drive at the grocery store or the mall or other very, very flat surfaces. But if there is any hill involved, I have to use my smart drive, period. Even a small hill can throw my shoulder into a really bad flare for weeks at a time. So to avoid a flare, I use my smart drive for any long distances and anywhere there are hills. This has lowered the amount of shoulder flares and improved my ability to function in a huge way. My neighborhood is all hills. Terrible sidewalks, horrible curb cuts, like, ugh. So when I walk my service dog, which is every single day, it's smart drive all the way. If I go into the city for fun adventures, it's always with my smart drive. Zoo, smart drive. Disneyland, smart drive. Long walks with my husband, smart drive. Like, you get the picture. Using my smart drive with my service dog is fantastic. I put my watch on my other wrist on the opposite side of where my dog is so I can tap freely. And I set my max speed to her perfect trot speed, which she loves. It's 90%, if you're curious. For some reason, my shoulder does get into a bad flare. I can even use a smart drive in my house, like I did when I first got it. Across my carpeted areas, down my long zigzag hallway to the kitchen, and also up and down my driveway so I can get to the mail, which is like way across the street and up a hill. One thing to always consider for Medicare patients is that they don't really care what you do outside your house. They're more concerned with needing it inside your home to complete your ADLs. When I got my smart drive, I could barely use my shoulder at all. So that's why it was covered. But it has allowed me more good shoulder days than bad shoulder days. The way it works for me is if I didn't have a smart drive, my shoulder would deteriorate until I was unable to use that arm at all. I wouldn't be able to transfer, make it to my bathroom or kitchen, certainly not my mailbox, and I would likely end up bedbound again. The smart drive gives me the freedom not only to do the things outside of my home, but also to function inside my home, either from preventing shoulder flares or actually being able to use it inside the home when my shoulder is already in a flare. The smart drive has completely saved my independence. Also, the smart drive battery has always been very long-lived and fantastic. I've never actually used it all the way up in one day. I've also had most of the wearables and the switch controls. My husband is actually a type 1 diabetic, and he wears a wearable to constantly monitor his blood sugar. So each time his monitor took a reading, the original PushTracker would disconnect. So that did not work very well for me. I then got the E2, and it worked fantastic. There's no Bluetooth interactions or interruptions at all. but the battery for me only lasted 2 hours, which is long enough most days, but not all days. The switch controls work really well for most people, but with my weak and weirdly bendy joints, I couldn't engage the buttons well. All of that was solved for me with the Apple Watch, which is basically perfect. No Bluetooth interactions, the battery lasts all day. It's so easy to use. I cannot even explain how awesome it is. So if you have any questions about how awesome the Apple Watch is with the Smart Drive, let me know.
Thank you, Sean. And I think it comes to show that all of our control options might not, like, there's no one control option for everybody, right? We can kind of work with their needs and kind of find the right control option for them so they can power their push their way. So with that, I will open up the floor to questions, and I'll leave this slide here with some resources, including our Facebook group. So for our Smart Drive users here in the audience, make sure to check out the Smart Drive Facebook group. It's mostly it's user focused, user run. There's every day there's tips posted, there's questions posted. We share some of the giveaway updates there as well. So hope to see you there.
Thank you very much, Mauricio and Shonda, and Catherine as well. We have a few questions in the chat box, and I can go ahead and ask those. So the first one we have here asks, is there any resistance when rolling the Smart Drive backward? Like, can you hop over a low curb while in motion?
That's a great question. And actually, the Omni wheel, the patented Omni wheel, allows for free movement of the wheelchair, even when the Smart Drive is not engaged. So you can easily move backwards, do wheelies, go over curves, go down. Really, there's no impediments from the Smart Drive on the wheelchair use. And I think Shonda can agree to that as a Smart Drive user.
Being a pretty active person, I'm all over the place. I'll get a boost up curbs, I will admit that, but I hop down curbs, I'm spinning in circles. I often do wheelies to kind of do some pressure release on my spine, and it's almost like it's not there at all. It just feels really natural. I sort of forget that it's back there.
Thank you. The next question we have is asking about the Apple Watch app. And we had a couple questions asking what disqualifies the Apple Watch 4 or Series 4 from being compatible with the Smart Drive app?
Great question. So really it's based on Apple development rules that we have to follow. The rule states that we can't, when the app is open but not in use, it cannot use more than 15% of the processing capabilities of that watch. And the Apple Watch Series 4 and below processors aren't as powerful as the ones that we are compatible with. So for that reason, the Apple Watch Series 4 and Series 3 cannot use the Smart Drive MS2+ app for Apple Watch. Some people have been able to download it, but I will say that the connection is not stable. We don't recommend it for Series 4 or older watches. So let's stick to Series 5 and newer.
Okay, thank you. Our next question asks if there are more than one active icons on the app screen. For example, could the person hit the wrong icon?
There's from the home screen, actually, there's only one icon that's touchable. The other two are just indicators, battery level indicators for the watch and for the Smart Drive. So there's only one active button that turns power assist on or off. When you want to change settings and stuff, you have to scroll up from the home screen, and then you get options to change settings, to do wireless updates, to do tap training, to check information about your Smart Drive. And then from the home screen, when you scroll right, you're actually able to see battery usage patterns and distance travel. But from the home screen, there's only one actual button that's interactive, and so there's really no issues with hitting the wrong button if you're trying to tap the screen.
I have something to add to that if you'd like. So I keep mine as a compilation. I just hit that and you can kind of, hopefully you can see. So oftentimes I will be wearing gloves and I will actually hit it with my nose. So it's so easy. Cannot tell you how easy it is.
That's some great coordination, Sean.
Yeah, thanks for that insider tip.
I always think it might be useful for, a quad. Just dink.
Exactly. Now we have a question. Is it possible for a caregiver to operate the smart drive? I'm thinking about a client with cognitive and/or coordination issues and a caregiver who needs assistance with pushing in the community.
We have a great solution for that, actually. The switch control, it actually has two switches, and you can split the cable long enough to put one cable in the push handles in the back of the chair and the other one on front for the user to use. So if you have it set at momentary, the caregiver can just tap the switch on the push handle and give that extra boost of energy and then just steer the chair.
Thank you. We have time for about one more question. Is there going to be continuing development on other Android-based operating system watches like Samsung to bring the MX2 Plus app to other platforms?
Our R&D department is actively working on improving the smart drive. We have a couple projects in the pipeline. Some of that you will see hopefully soon. But I will say that we are actively improving smart drive and improving for our end users.
Thank you, everybody, again, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.